Welcome to Module 4, an overview of the engaging youth, family, and partners in Wraparound. This fourth in a series of online learning modules provides an introduction to care coordination using the Wraparound practice model in alignment with the National Wraparound Initiative. These modules focus on providing an introduction to the practice model, wraparound facilitation skills and competencies to implement the model, and links to further resources for the learner about wraparound practices. The Butler County Family and Children First Council partnered with the Center for School-Based Mental Health Programs at Miami University to produce the learning modules. Please push the forward arrow on the bottom right to advance to the next slide. By the end of this module, participants will be able to identify steps to developing a meaningful partnership with youth and family members, assess youth and family culture, learn ways to identify and orient potential team members and gain the perspective of the youth and family. From the facilitator's point of view, engagement is setting the groundwork for trust and shared vision among the family and wraparound team members, so people are prepared to come to meetings and collaborate. For the family, they should experience it as their family and situation is being met with welcome, an interest in knowing their particular identity and story, what has happened in their lives, and what does it mean to them. It is also important to help families feel hope for the future, that things can actually change for the better, whatever that looks like to them. The family needs to experience a sense of urgency, that we are getting a process going and developing a team that is going to deliver real help. The facilitator needs to convey true and genuine interest in hearing and understanding all facets of the family. In talking with family, the facilitator needs to be able to explain how wraparound works in a simple and understandable way while helping them feel that you have their best interest at heart. They need to know enough about wraparound that they are willing to follow you as you guide them through this process. It's important they see you as a helpful person from the very first moments of contact. The facilitator works with the family to identify and engage potential team members, orient them to wraparound, and gain their perspective of the family. On the next slide, a clip provides an example of how engagement starts from the very first point of contact the facilitator makes with the family. Take a look at the video and think about what the facilitator does to engage with the family during this initial phone call. Does she use language the family can understand? Does she explain clearly the first steps in the process so the family knows what to expect? Does she address the urgency of getting going due to the youth being in the hospital? These are all things for the facilitator to try and be welcoming and meeting the family where they are at.
May I speak with Tracy, please?
Hi, this is she.
Hi, Tracy. This is Pam, the Wraparound Facilitator, who's been assigned to work with you and your family to get the help together that you are looking for. I just wanted to touch base with you, tell you a little bit about Wraparound, and see what your concerns are. I'd also need to schedule a time to meet with you and Gil, and hopefully with Sam, to see what your hopes are, what your strengths are, and again, your concerns.
Oh, hi, thanks. I'm so glad you called. I actually have been expecting your call, and I'm so happy that you called because I can't wait to start working with you guys. Yes, please, just let me know the date and the time and what we need to do from our end. And I mean, like the first time we meet, do you want to just meet with my husband and myself? Or do we need to bring Sam the first time? I'm not clear about that.
If you feel it would be easier for you to talk without Sam being in the room, that is fine. I can arrange another time to come and meet with him.
Yes, I think that would be better because if he's in the room, I don't know that I would be as forward and open with the things that I would want to say because I obviously would not want him at this point till I really know, how this is going to go. I really wouldn't want to upset him and maybe, cause him to be uncomfortable. So yes, that would be great if we could just meet, my husband and I could just meet with you and, some of your team, or just if it's just you, that's fine. That would work great if that's okay.
Tracy, I'm looking at your referral and noticed that Sam was at Children's Hospital. Is he still there?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Okay, so maybe arranging with a social worker there to speak to him?
Yes, they recommended that we get a plan in place before they dismissed him. They kind of want us to have some kind of, they just cannot release him and come back to the same situation that we've been in for all these years, months or whatever. We definitely have to have something in place and someone that we're working with so that we can let children know that, yes, we are following through and we do need help, and they recognize it. And so, yes, I definitely think that would be a good plan.
Okay, thank you. Let's decide on a couple of dates. The first time I meet with you will take about an hour and a half. We will go through what your family enjoys doing, what your concerns are, and there will be some paperwork to complete. Let me know when would work for you. Would next Wednesday at 10 a.m. work?
My husband and I both are retired, and so we're pretty open, and that's just wonderful. I can't wait to talk to you and get this thing in place and get my child back home. I look forward to meeting you and the team, and that sounds wonderful.
Okay, I'll see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m.
That sounds great. We'll make it. We'll be there and looking forward to it. Thank you, Pam. I appreciate it.
Bye.
Following this initial conversation, the facilitator sets up a time to meet with the family and youth. This should be at a time and place that they prefer, which oftentimes is in their home. When meeting in someone's home, it is important to take cues from them as to where to sit, what are the norms in the home, and acknowledge your appreciation of meeting with you. It is helpful to have good eye contact, open body language, and accept hospitality that is offered, to demonstrate an openness towards them. Be mindful of using warm words and complimenting or saying things that show your genuine respect for them. You may want to acknowledge pictures you see, things that stand out about their home or neighborhood, that convey you are trying to meet them where they are at. The facilitator then moves into helping the family in understanding wraparound and in the facilitator's role in partnering with them through the process. While wraparound is a process where the focus is on the deeper needs of the individuals in the family, often families come to us with more immediate needs, such as finances, housing, food, or broken relationships. Doing wraparound doesn't mean that you can't provide a family with immediate information or help in an area they are struggling. Helping to meet immediate needs that can result in a crisis for the family works to build the family's trust, while showing them you are a helper and able to be an ally for the family. Part of the judgment in deciding what to do is doing enough for them to move forward with the process, but not so much that forming a team and getting more helpers becomes less important. Additionally, find ways to praise the family for what they are doing, offer to make a referral to a support they are interested in, or provide information on financial resources in the community if needed. It is important to do something that seems helpful to the family and to the individual youth as part of the engagement process. Engagement is ongoing throughout the wraparound process. It will start at referral and continues through several meetings, and building trust takes time. While you have already viewed a clip of the initial phone call to a family, the main component of engagement is the discovery phase and meeting the family face-to-face for the first time. This includes ideally 1 or possibly 2 face-to-face meetings with the family and youth to gather important information needed to better understand where the family has been and where they hope to go, while understanding what worked and didn't along the way. During this face-to-face, we want to be able to do the following. Describe the wraparound process further in terms the family can understand. Describe your role as the facilitator. Initiate a meaningful conversation with the family and youth where the focus is on finding strengths and understanding concerning behaviors over time. Let's listen to one facilitator's initial explanation of wraparound with the family.
So I'm Pam, and I'm going to be the wraparound facilitator who's going to be working with your family, developing the plan that we hope will address some of the concerns that have brought you to wraparound and leaving your family feeling like you can go forward. So I wanted to explain a little bit about what wraparound is and kind of explain the process. We build on things that Sam and your family can do well so that our plan is successful. So we try to highlight those things and refer back to them often. You'll see them on posters and within our plan. We refer to them as the strengths of the young person, the family. The team itself, we'll look for strengths that the team has, and also find strengths that how the community supports your family. And we also work around building the team, getting the right people at the table so that the plan moves forward and actually gets you the help that you want. We'll be working together, and we find that we feel that the family's voice and the youth's voice is very important. And so as we build our plan, it's going to be up to you, Tracy and Gil, as to what actually goes into the plan. And we hope that we have Sam's voice present and he's able to give his opinions about what he thinks will be helpful and what won't. At the beginning of Wraparound, we meet fairly often. We want to get the help started. The first several meetings are very scripted, and we go through the series of process that we know will work the team, get the team together and focused on the right thing to do the planning around. And then we kind of move into what we call the middle part of Wraparound. That's a phase of where we're monitoring whether the plan is working. We're checking our progress regularly. We're tweaking the things that don't seem to be working, or saying, well, we tried this wasn't helpful, we tried to work around the barriers, maybe we should just not put that down as something we've learned is not helpful. So we'll be doing that for a number of months, and then as the team and you feel we are getting ready, that you have the support you need in place, and that you are, as a family, are feeling much better about where you are, we will be doing several meetings on coming up with a plan to transition Wraparound and me as a facilitator out of your life, leaving you with a way to go forward without us. So that's kind of, do you have any questions?
Wow. Can we get started?
As introduced in an earlier module, professionals, coaching, and training communities in Wraparound in Ohio developed targets for those implementing the practice model. In this engagement phase of Wraparound, skills identified relate to having youth and parents and caregivers involved as critical partners and fostering trusting and collaborative relationships with all of the team members. As seen in the diagram, the best practice application of this involves recognizing the family as experts on their situation, and their perspective is elicited from the first contact and throughout the process. Additionally, as the facilitator is engaging the family in building the team, the facilitator invests in learning about each person's priority concerns and spends time assessing and laying the groundwork for effective teamwork. Creating a strengths, needs, and culture discovery or other mechanism to highlight the family and their story is a key component of this process. In the next few slides, we will take a deeper look at the skills needed and the process behind engaging with the family to gather this needed information. In the Module 6, we will discuss the products that come as a result of good engagement and are needed to continue the planning part of the Wraparound process. Let's first take a look at how Wraparound is different from other social services families may have encountered, so you can explain the process to families as well as explain your role as the facilitator. Wraparound is different than other social services in many ways. In Wraparound, the facilitator talks about different kinds of help and strives to get to the root of the struggle and identify the underlying unmet need. In Wraparound, the thought is so-called bad behavior comes from an unmet need. In Wraparound, we engage natural and informal supports and acknowledge their important role and resource to the family. Additionally, we first identify what is the right help that is needed to meet the family's needs, and then look for who can do that, as opposed to just thinking about what programs or services are in the area, in order to individualize our response for real help to the family. So it makes sense that engagement in Wraparound would look different as well, and the language we use to explain it. Let's take a quick look at how we can explain Wraparound without the use of jargon before we move into our first interactions with the family. As professionals, we often use jargon and technical terms when explaining what it is that we do. We often don't even realize we are doing it. It is important to find a simple, natural, and non-jargon way to explain the process to a family or team members that come into our care. Now let's take a look at how we explain Wraparound to others, including the family and team members we will be working with. While it is important to explain to those learning the practice model of Wraparound using language such as strengths, natural supports, and individualized supports for families, we have to be careful in making Wraparound sound like a treatment model when we are talking to families and team members. Language that sounds less formal and scripted and more typical of how people talk in their daily lives has been found to be more effective and engaging. Let's look at an example of language of one group. Click on the word jargon and skip the ad to view a short video clip. Afterwards, close the window and continue with the learning module. In reflecting on the clip you just viewed, can you see why it is important to speak with clear, non-jargon words? Please drag and drop the items below into the category of jargon versus non-jargon. Take a few minutes and practice describing your role as the Wraparound facilitator. Think of yourself as the organizer and guide for the Wraparound process when talking to potential team members. What words will you use to highlight the complex processes associated? Now look at the words you chose. Maybe you selected team-based, natural supports, individualized, strength-based, family voice and choice. Do you think families and team members would really understand what you mean? Describe Wraparound in non-jargon terms about what it is and how different than some other care coordination they may have experienced. For example, instead of saying team-based, you could say people who know and care about you. Instead of natural supports, you could say others in your life who have been there for you. Instead of saying individualized, you could say based on what works for you and your family. You could explain strengths-based as what is already working, the things you and your family are good at, and what you prefer. And for family voice and choice, you could say making sure you and your family are in control to guide us in helping you. Engaging with the family, youth, and team requires strong, active listening skills. It is important that the family's thoughts and feelings are validated while we try to dig deeper to get to the root of their current circumstance. Here are a few key factors to keep in mind when thinking about how to become a better listener. To listen means to understand, feel, perceive, and sense. The way to become a better listener is to practice. Hear what people are really saying. Hear not only the words. Try to understand the whole message. Be mindful of the feeling underlying the content being expressed. Much of what is communicated by another is not in their words, but their tone and pace of speaking, and in the way their body moves. Active listening is about understanding. In Wraparound, we want to initiate a conversation to get to know the family and their view of their family story. We want to ask questions in a non-judgmental way, as you would making a new friend or meeting a new neighbor. To become an active listener, pay attention. Look directly at the speaker's body language and listen to their words. Try to avoid being distracted or thinking a lot about your response. Show that you are listening by an open posture and giving an occasional nod or smile. Provide feedback by paraphrasing, such as, "Sounds like you're saying." Ask clarifying questions and summarize what you heard them say. Avoid judgment by always allowing the speaker to finish and avoid advice giving. Respond by first putting yourself in their shoes. Click on the word "Listen" to view the video clip. Afterwards, close the window and push on the forward arrow to continue on with the rest of the module. During the initial face-to-face with the family, you want to ensure the family is as comfortable as possible. You don't want to sound like you are interviewing for a clinical assessment. You want the family to feel heard, validated, and for them to feel like you get them. Some things to avoid during the initial face-to-face with the family. Sounding like you are going through a list of questions. Hearing answer and moving to next question without exploring what it meant or understanding context of why it happened. Providing suggestions or solutions to their problems. Going back too often to have them tell their story over again. Here is an example of a facilitator having a conversation with the family.
So tell me a little bit about your family and what you like to do.
Well, we like camping, we like fishing, we like just about anything, mostly outside. We're outside people in the summer, so.
So lots and lots of group activities as a whole family.
Yeah.
We have zoo passes. We like to go to the zoo. We like to do the things that the kids like to do. So if they're involved in, like say upward basketball or those kind of things, we like to get them involved so that they're with other kids, so that kind of gives them, you can only do so much with your parents, and then you kind of like, okay. So we like to do a lot of outside things because that seems to be where, well, with Sam's case, that seems to be where he can function the best because he doesn't do well in crowds and those kind of things. So we look for activities that really, that are fun for all the family, but at the same time, it's meeting his needs that he needs in order to keep the family happy as well as him. So.
You mentioned upwards basketball. Is that something that Sam enjoys doing?
He enjoys that very much. He's very good. He's very tall, and so he's very good. And he's very, it's a setting to where he can take criticism and those kind of things. He doesn't always get those kind of things, but it seems like in basketball he does really well with that. He doesn't get upset if the coach kind of guides him in a different direction or kind of tells him, well, let's try it this way, and those kind of things. And that's one of the things that he looks forward to. He does really well, plus he doesn't mind going to the practices and those kind of things, and so we knew that was a good fit for him.
And has he played basketball for a while?
Yeah, he's been playing, well, he's
For 4
especially
years.
outside, especially.
Okay.
He loves just with the neighborhood kids. Anytime he can get a basketball, he's got one in his hand, so yes.
Well, that's great. That's great.
He would probably like baseball, but he doesn't like the fact that it interferes with camping, because he does love to camp. Because when we go camping, he likes to build things, and so he goes behind our camper and he builds forts and teepees, and he's kind of like in his own little world, but that's something he enjoys doing, so it's peaceful for him.
What things did you gather about this family's culture? Does it seem the facilitator is getting them? Now let's take a look at how the cultural competency value in Wraparound impacts the engagement with the family and team. To best understand the family, we have to be able to see them as unique from all other families. We have to understand not only their cultural heritage, but also their family values, roles, and upbringing. Here are a few questions you can ask yourself or the family when meeting with them to better understand their particular family story. How does help work best for the family? What are the different roles within the family? Who makes the major decisions in the family? What was mom or dad's upbringing like? How does the family discipline? Do they have any traditions or customs to be aware of? What are their expectations of each other? How do they best communicate? Are there spiritual aspects of the family to take into consideration? These are just a few examples of many conversation-starting questions that are helpful in gathering important information about culture. These topics serve multiple goals. 1, it helps families know you care about them and their life. 2, it helps you to know who they trust as part of their life to include as natural supports. And finally, it gives you a better idea of how the family culture works for that family and how that may impact planning. It is important to listen and be mindful of the goals of the conversation with the family. While you are being attentive and active listening, the facilitator also keeps in the back of their mind the various aspects they want to cover and get out of the conversation. Sometimes, especially in the beginning, the facilitator may use some reminders of the areas they want to cover. The various domains of the family's life, when the family first sought help for their youth, what do they hope to accomplish through the wraparound process? As seen in the diagram, this is one example of facilitator's cheat sheet to remind themselves. Especially when the facilitator is learning the process, it can be helpful before starting to look at a reference or glance at as wrapping up as a reminder of what they want to cover. When engaging youth in the conversation to understand their story, the facilitator needs to account that their perspective may be different from that of the caregiver, and they likely have different meanings associated with the experience being a part of this family. The facilitator still wants to use their active listening skills and talk about wraparound in non-jargon terms, but the examples need to be translated to concrete things more typical of someone their age. There will be some similarity in asking questions. How do they see their role in the family? What do they like to do for fun? What type of support do they want? What's their favorite thing about something? Some of the differences in approaching youth may involve you doing some activity while talking to them, so it doesn't seem like an interview. As stated before in this module, is there a way to be helpful to them? In some circumstances, you may have to pull them aside or set up a separate time to meet with them where they can feel better expressing their opinions. It is important to ask open-ended questions and not stack multiple ones together. Give them a chance to respond, and then follow up with further exploration. Click on Tips for Engaging Young People for other ideas. Afterwards, close the window and push the forward arrow to continue with the rest of the module. Take a moment to think back to your childhood. Make a list of things that were different about your household, then time that was spent at your best friend's household. What does this tell you about how unique all families are from each other? Reframing is another important skill that is part of engagement with families. In Wraparound, we are trying to educate families about wraparound as we model the different principles and ways of looking at things. Reframing is about offering alternative language to someone about a situation or behavior that may help them see it differently. and also see it as more amenable to change. An example may be a situation where the youth talks back to a parent and seen only as being disrespectful, but also may be seen as the youth sticks up for what they see as important. Reframing isn't about ignoring the concerns and sugarcoating what they are saying. If you do this, families don't feel heard and feel as though you are undermining how serious their concerns are. Reframing involves using intentional language to restate in a more positive way that then may lead to seeing the behavior as useful at times, or that it can be shaped or changed with the right approach. In reframing, you can also look for strengths in certain patterns that may be used later in planning. You want to keep on point while looking through an asset-based lens. It is important to help families see situations from a strength-based point of view, as well as explain why this is important to the process. Everyone likes feeling better and thinking positively of themselves. Oftentimes families and those working with them have been dealing with very difficult situations and have internalized a negative way of looking at themselves or of the family. When you are reframing and looking for strengths, you need to listen and highlight with intent to fully understand what the family member or team member is sharing. If the family feels the facilitator is missing the point or not capturing the difficulties the family has endured, it may polarize or undercut progress and rapport that was built thus far. Once they do share and talk to you openly about tough situations they have faced, you can reframe and ask questions such as, when was your family situation better? When did your family seem to experience the most success? Let's look at a facilitator's attempt at reframing the description of two parents regarding their son's behavior. How well do you think she did?
So when I first spoke with you, you mentioned that Sam is currently in the acute unit at the local hospital.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what took him there and how often he's been there,
Right.
and what your real concerns are with what you would like the wraparound team to kind of focus on?
Well, it's now gotten to the point where if we don't get help for him, he is no longer going to be able to live in our home. And that is not something that I'm open to. We're trying different things, but what happens is just anything that sets him off, it's trying to get someone to help us to know how to deal with him with his coping skills so he can calm himself down, because he literally just, these last times that he's been in the hospital, I had damage done to my van, and I'm talking about it's a 2010 van, and he has taken his fist and literally put it into the back of my van and caved it all in. He has gotten to where we've had to call the police officers because he's throwing things in my house. He's kicking and hitting, trying to turn over my refrigerator, putting his fist in the refrigerator, knocking things off the walls. Just out of control type things. And we don't know the proper way, I guess, to help him. I'm going to use the word restrain, but in a nice, appropriate way. We just don't understand all of these things, and that just makes him more agitated. And so we have to call the police for our own safety and for his safety, because he will pull a knife out of the kitchen drawer and say he's going to kill us or he's going to kill someone. He's talked about setting us in our van on fire and burning us in our van and those kind of things, and that's really... So he's in children's, and he's been there for some time, and it seems like that's almost like our second home anymore for him, because these episodes are coming more and more, and we just need help. We need to know what we can do, and not just in our home, but in the school setting, because he's also doing things at school, and they're telling us that he's not going to be able to stay in school. We're going to have to put him in different programs and things because he can't be in regular school because he's threatened teachers and those kind of things. So
it sounds like Sam is really fairly vocal with being able to say what he is reacting about. He's able to actually state ideas that he has on how he thinks he could solve the problems. but obviously they're not safe ideas, they're not helpful ideas, but I do see that he has that ability to at least verbalize some things and say those things out loud, and then his actions also mirror that. So it's not like his words and his actions are not saying the same kinds of things.
Now that we have explored the process behind engaging with the family, let's take a look at the products that come as a result of the time spent with the family. In Wraparound, we like to pull together the information we have learned into a holistic document, the Strengths, Needs, and Culture Discovery. This document includes the family story from a strengths-based perspective, a snapshot of their history, and any patterns that have shaped who they are, important timeline information that show growth or changes over time, information about when things were working, and their vision for a better life, just to name a few. This document focuses on highlighting the functional strengths of the family, as well as taking a deeper look at the areas they would like help. Wraparound is one of the few programs that genuinely looks at the family holistically. This means you need to look at the strengths and needs across all domains of the family, including social, financial, legal, spiritual, educational, and more. Think of each domain as a piece to a puzzle. Only when all pieces are viewed together can you see the entire picture, or in this case, entire family. As families and team members are telling their stories and sharing information, you need to be listening for strengths. Some of these are obvious based on questions you ask. For example, asking a parent, what makes you most proud of your child? Others will be less apparent, and you will need to listen and reframe to create the list. Youth may talk to you about playing a video game or how they enjoy playing with Legos. Ask them what it is about the video game that they enjoy. They may share details about how it calms them down, how it makes them feel good to be successful, or how it helps them stay distracted when they are stressed. These are all strengths and opportunities to build upon when developing a plan. Let's watch a clip of a facilitator identifying strengths as she meets with the family.
We're very active with our church. We also are part of a support team for foster and adoptive families, and that works really well because he's kind of like a leader somewhat. They kind of tend to get him to help more than involve him in activities.
So Sam finds it, really enjoys helping other people.
Yes, very much so.
So that's something, a good way to kind of engage him and maybe help him through some difficult times, like in those group activities.
He does very well with children that are younger than him, because then that way he's the one that's the leader, and there's a part of him that really likes that, but he doesn't like to be singled out for that reason either. So if like we're at a support group meeting and the facilitator, they need a babysitter, they might come and get him to take a couple of like the younger little guys to just play basketball with them, because they don't, they don't know, and so he's very happy about doing that because he's kind of just, they're little, and so he's not going to have to prove himself or anything, so he does well with that. So he's very good at helping people.
Confidentiality and mandated reporting. It is a privilege to work with families and assist them in getting the help they need with the things they want to change in their lives. Regarding this, it is very important to demonstrate respect for them by being careful with their information. The facilitator ensures that they have up-to-date releases to share information with team members and only share what is necessary for an effective team planning process. In addition, the facilitator educates the family and teams on the limits of confidentiality and when they are mandated to report something, such as suspected abuse or neglect. It is a good practice to have some type of confidentiality agreement they sign to highlight this important value. As a way of demonstrating respect to the family, it is important to take great care with the information you collect. Many agencies use blanket releases of information in order to expedite information sharing. How would you feel signing a document as a parent or guardian, giving permission to talk about you to agencies you may not be involved with? Doing releases for each agency and only sharing information needed with the team members models for the family and other team members just how much you genuinely regard the family and their situation. Just because you have a release of information does not mean you should be sharing all details of the information. And like other aspects of social services, confidentiality has limits, particularly with mandated reporting responsibilities. Click on the word confidentiality to be directed to a site with further information on the topic. Afterwards, close the window and push the forward arrow to continue with the rest of the module. Natural supports. During the engagement phase, part of the facilitator's job is to listen for and begin identifying natural supports. As a review activity, please drag and drop the following pros and cons of natural supports onto the appropriate term, pro or con. Let's listen to a facilitator's view of the challenges and benefits of involving natural supports in Wraparound. Click on the term natural supports to view a short video. Afterwards, close the window and push the forward arrow to continue with the rest of the module. Many facilitators are able to glean needs from the family. Most of these are on the surface and may impact the family short term, but they don't really get to the root of the cause or what is often referred to as the hole in the heart need. When talking with the family, try to listen for themes and ideas from all family members about their needs across all domains. All planning should focus on the underlying deeper need, that is the root cause for undesirable actions. Please remember to carefully select your wording so you do not sound intrusive. Some teams and families may appreciate the term hole in the heart, where others may feel judged and intruded upon. One way to think of these needs is like an iceberg. We see behaviors like anger, aggressiveness, acting out, running away, among others, on the surface. Some teams will want to focus on these what we see areas. They may suggest interventions like chore charts, behavior plans, etc. Although those may be helpful, they don't get to the why, which is below the surface. Why does he need a behavior plan? Why is she so upset that she feels the need to run away? But focusing on the why, teams are more likely to impact the family long term in a more meaningful way. In order to understand what the family wants to accomplish through Wraparound, it is important to understand their vision for what a better life could look like. Some questions you could ask would be, if you could wave a magic wand and make things better, or change something about your family, what would that look like? Where do you see yourself and your family going? What does your family look like in the future? Questions like these can be helpful in trying to elicit change and help to see what positive change would look like for a family. These questions need to be asked of the youth as well. The answers provided by parent and youth may differ. When the team first comes together to begin planning, all of this information should be available to be incorporated into the team mission. Let's view a clip of exploring with the family for their hopes for their family.
So tell me about what you're hoping to see at the end of Wraparound. What's your hope? What's your vision for this process?
I think our biggest hope is for him to be able to, I don't know, maybe, I don't want him to ever mask his feelings or hide his feelings. I want him to be able to let us know how he's feeling, but in a constructive way. Not a destructive way, but in a constructive way, so that we can recognize, okay, this is really bothering him. What can we do to help him get through this? I need somebody. I'm so afraid that, he's not going to be able to go to school. I'm afraid that if he continues to tear up our home and maybe hurt us or hurt his sister, he's going to end up in residential. And Children's Hospital has actually recommended that to us. That might be the best place for him.
Right.
And as his mother, I can't. I cannot go down that road. I mean, I know sometimes it's what's best for the child, but I don't think that's the best for him. I'm his mother.
Well, hopefully Wraparound
will
find ways to keep him with you and with his dad and with his sister, because it sounds like that's really important.
If they could just learn him, or give us a way to teach him how to control his anger and calm it down before it happens.
And help us to know how to do it. React to him when he does. Because we don't always make the right choices. I know that we don't always do things right. I don't need anyone to tell me that. I know that because you're in the moment and you do. I never would physically harm my child, but sometimes you have to stop him from what you're doing, and that's not even always the right thing to do for him. But yet you cannot let him continue to tear up your house before the police officer gets here. So that's what I'm looking for. It's not only, and even for his sister, for her to be able, she loves him. And I know he loves her. So I want them to have a relationship. So I want us as a family to enjoy being able to do things without walking on eggshells and thinking, is this going to be the time when something happens and we don't know how to control it?
To do all those activities that you love to do outside. And
he's a wonderful child. He's a wonderful kid. We love him so much, and even people that are around him and stuff, he's funny. He's got just a sense of humor like you would not believe, but
he don't recognize it.
He doesn't recognize it. He thinks people are laughing at him, but we're not laughing at him. He's just does really funny things. But I want him to be able to, belong in a family, to belong with us, and to feel like he belongs and be comfortable within himself, to be able to, I guess, just to be healthy and happy, and not get up every day wondering, is this the day when I'm going to get up angry and I don't.
Many facilitators find the use of visual aids helpful in developing their discovery. Tools such as a timeline, genogram, echo map, or even family photos can be helpful. Looking for patterns or significant events may help to establish some of those deeper needs that can impact and influence concerning behaviors. Seeing it in the mental model format can offer insight to the family team in a way that a narrative can't. Click on Ruth's story to see some examples of these aids. As the facilitator wraps up the face-to-face meeting, involving conversations with the youth and family we have been discussing in this module, you will want to note if you have captured. Reason they were referred or sought out wraparound? What first brought them into involvement with the youth serving systems for their child, and how effective was their help or involvement? When did they notice something was different or felt wrong, and what did they try? Their unique story capturing the various aspects or domains of their life, looking at their whole life, not just challenging behaviors or mental health treatment. Where they want to see their family, their life go. Strengths they have or draw upon, obvious or less apparent. And needs they have that are unmet, that are keeping them from going where they want to go. Team selection, building teams, and orientation is part of the first phase of the process. Again, success of the team can often go back to relationship. Continually building these relationships and eliciting team members' perspectives is vital. Connecting to natural and informal supports is essential. Families often do not want to include their natural or informal supports on teams for many reasons. Some don't want to intrude, some don't want to air their dirty laundry. Others feel as though they have burned bridges and don't have family or friends to help. For Wraparound to be successful, you need to have a balance of professional and informal or natural supports. You want people who will be available to the family after the professionals have closed their cases. The facilitator can ask the family some of the following questions to help determine who those natural support team members could be. Who understands what you have experienced? Who can help make sure we build help that fits your life well? Who can help to balance the perspectives held by systems and professionals? Let's listen as a facilitator explores with a family possible members for the team.
Let's talk a little bit about the people who can help us make the plan and actually work this. So in Wraparound, we are a team-based process.
Right.
Obviously, you and Gil are important, as well as Sam, to be part of that team. We also recognize that there's already professionals who are working with you.
Right.
So generally, those are people that we would invite to be part of our team. But in Wraparound, we also know that you are supported by many other people in your life who will be there long after the professionals stop and I disappear. And so we would like to think about involving some of those people who might be helpful, who might see him from a different point of view. I'm thinking of maybe one of the basketball coaches who seems to be able to accept criticism and maybe disappointment and loss a little bit easier in that setting, so they may have something that they can help bring to the table. So who are you thinking at this point you would like to be part of the planning team?
Well, as far as personal goes, I have a good friend that I would like for her to be a part of the team because she's the one I go to. I call her and say, "Oh, please tell me, what do I do? I need someone to talk to and vent to." He has an older brother Jeffrey, that lives here with us. And Jeffrey's soon going to be moving out, but he's very close to him.
Okay.
And he does look, now they have their moments, don't get me wrong, because he's gone off on him too. But he would really be someone good for the team. I would really like to see, like the board of DD, someone from their organization be involved, and maybe someone
Is he eligible for services with them already?
Yes, he is. And then someone from the school system that definitely needs to be able to be his spokesperson at school. I'm not really always great when we go in to have these, he's on an IEP and have these meetings. We need someone that's on his team and not like we're just trying to, attack him or whatever. Someone from the school system, those kind of things. Someone that knows the professionals like you guys, the psychiatrists, or people that, like someone, maybe his therapist, could give her, she doesn't necessarily, I don't know about coming to the meetings, but if she could share her input of what, without disclosing their personal stuff, but I mean, I would think that would really be helpful to say, well, because I'm sure there's things that they know that we don't know, obviously, so. Yes.
So it sounds like you've got a number of different people that you'd like to invite.
Right.
Do you think maybe the basketball coach at some point might be somebody? Is there anybody from church that you're thinking about?
I have a lot of friends, and of course, obviously, our church family. I don't know how comfortable he would be.
Okay.
I think it has to be somebody more on a personal.
He would.
I think that he would feel like.
I don't think he'd accept that.
Yeah, I don't know if he would accept it. On a personal note, I think it would be like my close friend, or like you said, the basketball coach, or someone even like his therapist that he's used to going to see. That would probably be people he would.
The facilitator needs to gather information from the team members and to engage them in the process. The facilitator speaks with them and provides an orientation to the wraparound process and your role as facilitator. The facilitator explores what the potential team member does in relation to the family and acknowledges the strengths they have that can assist the family. The facilitator then explores the team member's view of the family and strengths they have seen in them. The facilitator gets their perspective on the current situation of the family and initial conditions leading to wraparound. The facilitator explores what goals they may have for the family. If they are with Children's Services or Juvenile Court, there may be court orders that are explained and what they think should happen in the process. Finally, the facilitator needs to be able to help them to see and believe in their role on the team. Sometimes team members need to understand why their help is needed on the team, along with the potential benefit to their own lives as a team member. Many wraparound programs include doing home visits, either at the engagement phase or even for family team meetings. It is important to ensure your personal safety during all stages of the home visit. Click on the words Home Visit Safety to watch a short video. Afterwards, close the window and push the forward arrow to continue with the rest of the module. Let's recap some points to consider in home visiting. Let someone else know when and where you are meeting at for the visit. Wear appropriate clothing for home visiting. Call ahead. Confirm address. Ask the family about parking. Should you come to the front or side door? Are there any safety hazards to be aware of in the neighborhood? Who will be home for the visit? Do a drive-by prior to first visit if needed. When entering the neighborhood, orient self and be aware of any groups hanging around. When arriving at the home, park in a way that you can easily get out, not in the driveway preferably if you may be blocked in. Lock car. Have your phone. Walk with confidence. Be aware of dimly lit areas. Welcome the family. Sit where you can see who is behind you. Have an exit plan just in case. Ask if others are there or will be arriving. Be conscious of pets and anything that the family needs to tend to for you to feel safe. When leaving, have car keys ready and assess if anything has changed since you arrived. Have someone on call in case you need help. Don't ignore your gut. If you have a bad feeling, politely excuse yourself. To sum up this part of the engagement phase, the groundwork for establishing trust with the family and team members is established. The facilitator explores with them the context of the family coming into Wraparound, the meaning of events that brought them here, and their vision of where they would like to go. The way the facilitator listens and orients the family and potential team members to Wraparound sets the tone for the work that will be done throughout this process. The facilitator is mindful how they are interacting with the family and team members consistent with Wraparound principles. As part of the engagement with the family, the facilitator assists in stabilizing crises that the family feels would prevent the family from entering into the team planning process. In the next module, we will delve into this more. Congratulations! You have completed Module 4, Engaging Youth, Family and Partners in Wraparound.